What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and today I've got a quick video just talking about Survarium by Vostok Games. Now before I go any further I should probably explain who exactly Vostok are, because no one is going to have heard of them before. This is their first attempt at a game as far as the paper is concerned, and that doesn't really tell you the whole story. Now, in 2012, a company called GSC Game World, who had been responsible for all of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R games, shut down, and they had been at that point working on S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 for a number of years. As part of the shutting down, their CEO took the rights to S.T.A.L.K.E.R and the whole franchise with him, but the team that was left behind decided that they still wanted to work on a game based off the same sort of concepts. So they got banded together under the name of Vostok Games, found themselves some investment, and are now producing Survarium using what remains of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 engine, which is why what you're seeing in the background here looks quite as good as it does. However, Vostok are not able to use any of the IP, so any of the intellectual property from the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series, so none of the names, none of the events, none of the locations, all of the sort of things that would identify as S.T.A.L.K.E.R cannot be used in Survarium. So I should probably explain a little bit about what exactly Survarium is, and by dint of that a little bit about what exactly S.T.A.L.K.E.R was for anybody who hasn't played it. So the storyline in S.T.A.L.K.E.R was that the Chernobyl nuclear power plant and the event that took place there in 1986 did not go like it did in real life. There was a second explosion that meant that the exclusion zone around the plant was expanded, the terrain within that area was warped and twisted, and it created these strange anomalies and artifacts, and you played the role of a stalker who was someone who was going into the zone to recover these artifacts, bring them back out and use it to make themselves money. Survarium is obviously trying to create a very similar vibe to S.T.A.L.K.E.R with its story, and the story is not fully explained. Part of the game will be to obviously go and work out exactly what happened, but there has been a worldwide ecological event that has resulted in nature mutating and fighting back. And mankind has now been pushed into factions and small groups in order to survive, and it's been a long time since whatever this disaster was. Part of all this is that they are still keeping the anomaly and artifact system that was there in S.T.A.L.K.E.R, which is basically that areas of the world have been warped by powers unknown into crazy and dangerous anomalies that affect gravity, or set you on fire, or make you explode, all sorts of really random stuff. And the idea is that the world itself is dangerous, the environment is dangerous, and you constantly need to be watching where you step or what you do, because even that can kill you. Now where Survarium is going to differ greatly from how S.T.A.L.K.E.R was, is that Survarium is going to be not only multiplayer, but a free-to-play MMO. So this is quite a jump away from S.T.A.L.K.E.R, and to some people who are a big fan of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series and wanting S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 is going to be a bit worrying, because obviously online and MMO do not fit particularly well with the single player exploration and survival game that was S.T.A.L.K.E.R. However, they're intending on there being 3 game modes. Now currently the game is in closed beta and you can buy a founders pack, get access to this, but be aware that there is an NDA currently active on the game, so you can't talk or show about anything you see in that beta other than what they've published themselves. And I can tell you that currently there is only a PvP game mode available. It is a sort of team deathmatch style with a kind of capture the flag type layout, and when you're creating a new game with a new engine, the easiest way to test things is through a very straightforward platform first, like PvP. On top of the PvP game modes, there's 2 that I personally consider far more interesting. We have a co-op game mode, which the information so far is slim, but seems to be like there will be a string of missions in a persistent map that you can take part in with a friend or maybe more, and that is what's going to tell you the story of Survarium. And then there is a free play mode, and this is the one that I'm kind of the most interested in. And the idea with this is going to be 20 to 30 man, they've said, servers, and it's going to be an open world environment, very much like S.T.A.L.K.E.R. The idea here, and obviously this is going to be a bit different to S.T.A.L.K.E.R because it's not a persistent world, you don't stay in it, is that you need to escape the zone you're in. You need to get out and do what's necessary in order to do that, but all the time, obviously, with up to 29 other players and other survivors running around in this area with you. Whether you band up with them, whether you kill them, is down to you, and it's supposed to have all of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R elements that made the sort of S.T.A.L.K.E.R semi-free play style really fun. So faction missions, upgrading weapons, various anomalies and artifacts to hunt. All the bits and bobs that we recognise from the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series will be in this free play mode. Although again, this is not solid information, there's more information they're going to bring out. Right now, this is what I can glean from their various developer videos. On top of this, and to sort of link in with the MMO side of things, they're talking about there will be persistent character developments with stats you can assign to your character that are not game breaking, but valuable sort of gun dispersion stats, reload stats, that sort of idea. There will be a number of factions that you can get reputation with, and this is where you'll get various gear and various upgrades. And then there will also be quite a detailed weapon upgrade and sort of weapon modification system, much like they had in S.T.A.L.K.E.R again, that will help you sort of drive some persistence through the game and make these feel more like one continuous experience rather than, as it looks like it's going to be, sort of 3 separate game modes that you play a game through. As I mentioned earlier, the only thing you can access currently in the beta is a PvP game mode, the team play game mode. Although with the advantages of the engine being more complete than a beta game would normally have, the development process hopefully will be quite quick. Just looking at some of the sort of more cool features that aren't in the game currently but will be eventually, and kind of distinguish it from the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series, whether that's for better or worse, it's hard to say yet. But they are talking about things like dynamic anomalies, where the anomaly itself will change exactly how the map can be played. For example, make areas inaccessible, areas accessible, change the benefits of going different routes dynamically as the game progresses, which sounds very cool. And then on that dynamic front again, there's also quite a lot of talk about how the players will have some influence on the story of the game itself. So because you're playing 4 factions in the game, and there are factions that you can pledge your allegiance to, how those factions do and how you help those factions progress will change the storyline of the game as well. And obviously that's quite a hard thing to implement. It's going to be interesting to see how that comes out. These are all things for the future that there's very little solid information on now. Personally, I'm really excited to see how they do with this. The game looks beautiful from the footage we have available so far, and I, as I said, really enjoyed the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series. So if they can come out with something that feels like S.T.A.L.K.E.R and yet has its own merits, then all the better, especially if some of those merits enable me to play S.T.A.L.K.E.R with a friend. You know, it was always one of my slight bugbears with S.T.A.L.K.E.R is it was an awesome game, but wouldn't it be even better if you could play it co-op? Maybe Survarium is the answer. For now guys, that's all I can really bring you. As I said, there is an NDA active on the beta at the moment, so you can't bring any sort of pictures or gameplay footage. Hopefully that will be lifted some point soon. There is talk of when the open beta arrives you will be able to talk much more in depth about the game, although no real indication of where that is except maybe a couple of months' time. Up until then, I hope this has given you a bit of an idea about what Survarium's all about and why maybe you should be having a look at it. I'm certainly very hopeful for what Vostok can do. They've got a good pedigree behind them with the S.T.A.L.K.E.R games, and it could just be a really fun and slightly different survival exploration game. If you have any comments or questions or even a bit more info on Survarium, please chuck it down below. Otherwise, thanks very much for listening guys, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you found this helpful.